Richie Faulkner, welcome back to On the Road to Rock. How the hell are you?
I'm doing very well. Good to see you again. I didn't know it was you, but of course it's you. So here we are again.
You didn't know it, but you saw me last week in Kansas City at the Cable Dahmer Arena. And what a show that was last week. You guys are a couple weeks into the tour now, and it's on fire. I know from experience.
It's good fun. The audiences have been great. We've got the set list locked and loaded. It's a great show. It's a great pre-show. So we're just happy to be out here doing what we love doing, man. Thanks for having us.
Oh, man, I'll tell you, how much input, if any, did you have in formulating this set list, which is very career spanning and like hits every era perfectly, I think.
Well, we all have an input when we before we start rehearsals for the tour. We get on the phone. I'll talk to Rob about some ideas, what we haven't done for a while, what the band have never done. Maybe we need to touch some of the new records, some of the classics, obviously, and some deep cuts. And that's kind of where we start with it. Uh, we haven't done that one for a while. Let's throw that in. Let's look at the set and put it together and see how it flows. We rehearse it, and then there's normally a few alterations we need to make. Swap some places around for that dynamic flow of a set. It's got to start with an impact. It's got to cool off a little bit in the middle and then reach up towards the end. That kind of dynamic. So that's how we. That's how I've always done it with them, and probably how they've always done it for the last 50 years. So we look at what we need to do, what we'd like to do, and start from there, really. And that's how we do it.
Well, I think it was what I found fascinating about this compared to some other Priest tours is like how early in the set a song like Another Thing Coming, Breaking the Law, how early in the set those are, and how you talked about building up. Not only that, but how perfectly intertwined the songs from the new album Invincible Shield, and you played several, and it's like it flowed together as if there was no, oh, this is from the new album, everybody go to the bathroom and get a beer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it flowed perfectly as if you're just one huge Priest experience that had no downtime.
Well, not only the new album, but you've got, songs Painkiller next to Green Man Alicia. So you've got songs from Sin After Sin next to Painkiller, but it's the same DNA, man. Priest has been the same for at least since Scott was in the band, which is over 30 years now. So, and then prior to that, you still got Tipton, Halford, Ian Hill. It's the same DNA. So when we create those songs, that DNA is being distilled into those songs as well. So there's a relationship between them, so they don't stick out too much. Obviously, it's a new song, but you can tell it's the same DNA of the band. So that's what we strive to achieve. Really, we put those songs in a good place where, as you said, Breaking the Law is up front. Another Thing Coming is up front. It pulls you in. These are the songs that we love and you love. We want to put them. We want to pull everyone in. It's a party. It's a great night. It's going to be a great night. This is a new one. This is one from Defenders of the Faith. This is one from another. This is how we keep it, or try and keep it interesting. So I'm really glad that you picked up on that.
Oh yeah, tremendous. And I'm glad that I got to see the show actually before having you on, because I have this point of reference now. And this tour is a couple weeks old. And you guys are got dates all the way through December in Japan and all through America. It's great. And how's it been being out with Sabaton? I thought they were tremendous as well.
They're really great. They're a great bunch of guys, and they bring, like any good opening band should, they bring a different audience. So they bring a different audience to us. We bring a different audience to them. So that's a great marriage, really, of a great support band. You see a lot of people with Sabaton shirts on, which is great for them and great for us. It's bringing those two fans together, really, and introducing them to maybe new style of music. Incredible how that may seem, that some people might not have heard Priest before. You can never take that for granted. You get some young people, some old people, they've never heard Priest before, so you can't really take that for granted. There might be someone there in that city that is seeing Priest for the first time, and it might be because Sabaton brought them in. So we can only be grateful to them for that.
I know for a fact at that show, there was a guy I know who's he's 19 or 20. It was his first pre-show.
There you
He's
go.
really getting in all this stuff. And I mean, he did not know what to expect. He was blown away. And I think you're right. That stands to reason. Of course, when it comes to Priest, dual guitars, we know the legacy of that from Glenn and KK back in the early days of Priest up into, in the last decade or so for you and Andy. I mean, talk about how the pressure of that, and also the fact that that sound is so indicative of Judas Priest and so important, and how to keep this legacy going, and how, I mean, to me, I love that dynamic of you and Andy. I think you guys are tremendous together. So just talk about what it's like working with him, the yin and yang of that relationship.
Well, obviously there is a pressure, but I think it's more of a responsibility and a duty as a guitar player when you're coming up with new ideas, new songs, new riffs. That's the hymn sheet you're taking from, but that's part of our DNA as guitar players. So when I'm coming up with a musical passage, part of my DNA is the double guitar, whether it's Priest or Thin Lizzy or Iron Maiden, you name it. It's part of the DNA. So that's kind of the approach that we use. It hasn't got to have it. If it doesn't fit the song,
Mm.
don't push it in there just because it's got to fit. But that's part of the legacy. That's part of the texture and the experience of Priest. And growing up as guitar players with that, it kind of comes naturally when it does need it. And it's representing that kind of thing live. As you said, if it's someone's first show, you want to present them with Priest in its current form, but what Priest means for half a century: the double guitar, the high vocals, the melody, the rip roaring drums and bass. That's what it means. That's what Priest is. So you try and uphold that responsibility when writing and performing new songs.
And during the show, Rob talked about this 50-year legacy. You got back to 1974 Rockarola, which you guys just released a re-release, digital re-release of that. There'll be CD and vinyl coming up, I think, next month. But just talk about from your perspective, being in this band now for 14 years or whatever it's been, and to be able to go back and do some of these re-releases that are also link you now to the legacy and the deep legacy, like before you were born legacy of Judas Priest.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I think it's important for the band. When you're a young band, you're starting off, you might have financial restrictions or whatever it might be. I think there's a few bands that their first record isn't a fully fledged version of their vision,
Mm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think to have the capability to go back and revisit some of those things and get it closer to the vision that you always intended it to be, I think it's important. There's some fans out there, myself included, that love the original. That's what we grew up with for all those kind of albums. For all their flaws, they're perfect because of their flaws. That's what we grew up with. That's what we know. But for the bands that create them rather, I think it's important for them, if they get the chance, to represent it in the way that they wanted to originally. So I think it's important for them. And I speak to fans that love the re-release, and I speak to fans that love the original. So now we've got the choice as fans to go between the two. It's a great thing. But I think ultimately it was important for them to do as part of their own vision.
Well said. And I love there's like kind of a redo of the album cover with like the kind of the Coca-Cola pop bottle on the front. So I'm definitely waiting here. And that's coming up in November. You can get the CD vinyl edition of that for people that like me, that like physical stuff in their hands,
Absolutely.
that represent this stuff. And that's awesome that exists. So we've had you on the show before, Richie. You're a big Iron Maiden fan, as am I. They're touring America as we speak. I don't know that there's ever been a time since you've joined Priest that both bands have been touring America at the same time. But my question to you is, this is a tough one. I like to throw in a tough one here and there. Will we ever get a proper Maiden Priest tour? Will it happen?
I think it would be fantastic if that did happen. I think as a fan, that would be the one. Maiden and Priest on tour, that would be the one to go and see. That would be the ticket. We played with Maiden last year. It was on a different day at the Power Trip Festival
Right, in
in Indio,
California. Yeah.
California. Yeah, and we're doing the Aftershock Festival in where is that? Sacramento.
In a couple
Just
days.
outside
Yeah.
Sacramento. Yeah, we're doing that, and we are on just right before Maiden. So I don't remember the last time
Wow.
Priest and Maiden have been on back to back like that. I asked Rob, and he said he thinks it's in the early '80s when they were doing Point of Entry and stuff like that. So we haven't been together back to back like that for 40 years. So it'll be great. Obviously, it's great to see the guys. They're friends of ours. But I think for a fan's point of view as well, to be there when Priest and Maiden are playing, not only the same festival, not only the same day, but right after each other, I think it's going to be a monumental occasion.
I did not realize that pairing was that close on that day. That is insane. I mean, what a treat for those fans. And like that could kind of, hey, maybe that'll set some things in motion, because I
Plant
think
some seeds, yeah.
both bands are absolutely I can't believe it. And I'm 40 years old. We're close to the same age. And like,
Mhm.
so these bands are such a part of our upbringing and what we love about music. You know, that goes for both of us. And you're in one of the bands. So I can't imagine the idea of this colliding with it's almost too much for me to comprehend. And I'm gonna see a Maiden in a couple weeks in Minneapolis coming up. So I'll be able to compare and contrast and think of some ways we can make this happen because
We
I
need to
think that
make it happen. You're
we need
right.
to
We
make
need
it
to make it
happen.
happen.
And I'll tell you, Bruce is so tremendous. He hasn't lost a step. And I'm coming off a week ago seeing Rob Halford. And what can you say? It's almost like it goes without saying how unbelievable Rob is, the voice that's still there to see him and so in command. I'll tell you, it seems like just from a health standpoint, he's doing, I think back in maybe '08, I think Glenn and KK were both still in the band, the Nostradamus era. I think that Rob is doing better. It seems like he's moving better on stage and is hitting the notes even better than he was. And that's been now 15 years. How
Yeah,
incredible is that?
he's a phenomenon, really. It's incredible. He doesn't really warm up or anything. I've always tried to figure out what his secret is before he goes on. But he has a couple of things that he does before he goes on, like tea for his throat and stuff. But he's old school, man. He goes on and that's who he is. That's how he operates. He just goes on and belts it out, man. But he's not only a singer, he doesn't only sing the songs, he performs them, he connects with the audience, he's like an actor in that, like a thespian in that sense. He kind of emotes these feelings and emotions in these songs and really helps the audience connect. He's doing fantastic at 73 now. He really is a phenomenon.
I take these moments very much to heart because I didn't see so many bands. I was born in 1984. So,
Mm.
I didn't see the Turbo tour or I
Right.
didn't see Maiden Somewhere in Time tour, so for me to still be able to do this, I take every bit of it to heart. And I'm sure you're the same way as a fan to just be able to enjoy this music and enjoy these legendary players and musicians while it's still in existence because there's so many. I mean, gosh, Aerosmith just had to announce a retirement. Steven
Mm.
Tyler's health and things like this. It just happens. I mean, our heroes don't last forever is a sobering thought.
You're absolutely right. We're incredibly fortunate to have bands like Priest and Maiden still out there doing it. I know everyone's had their own share of, not everyone, but a lot of people in those bands have their own health things to deal with. But we're all out. We're still making new music. We're still on tour, getting to different countries around the world, playing these great songs. To the fans that have put the band there for 50 years, so we're incredibly fortunate. I joined on the farewell tour. Fortunately, it wasn't the farewell tour. We're still here, 13, 14 years later, still doing it. So we're incredibly fortunate. You're right. No one lives forever. But I think with this kind of industry, you don't retire from it. It retires you. Whether, you know what I mean? As you said, whether it renders you incapable of doing it or you pass away. Lemmy did it until his dying day.
Right.
Angus Young's still out there doing it. Brian Johnson's still out there doing it. Mick Jagger's still out there doing it. You don't retire. It retires you somehow. So as long as we're healthy and we can do it, I'm sure we'll still be doing the same.
And happy birthday to Sammy Hagar, who turned, I think, 77 today. So
There you
there
go.
you go.
That's
Another
the
one.
benchmark. As long as if you can do it, you do it. That seems to be the blueprint for this. There's a creative energy that we all have that keeps pushing you to do it until you can't do it anymore, and that seems to be the rule of rock and roll.
And for you personally, you talk about health. I mean, that who would have thought you as the one of the younger heavy metal players in the world a couple of years ago going through what you went through and now how has that kind of changed your perspective on things as you went through that and it's crazy that this kind of happened on stage at Louder Than Life and it's weird to say but we could say it maybe now a couple years later that it created almost this like insane metal moment, not that it wasn't very serious medically at the time, but what has your perspective changed on things since that happened to you?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, and it does anything like that. the severity of it, when you wake up after the surgery, when you wake up and you realize what it was and how severe it was, it has to change your perspective. And it brings to you a sense of your own mortality, really. That we're all, as we said, no one gets out alive, you know. But so it's not a motivator because you're scared of it happening again, but it's a motivator that you've got to live each day to the fullest. You know, anything you've got inside you, whether it's a book or a song or a riff, or even if it's meeting family members, you know, we're not here forever. So live your life to the fullest. I think that's definitely what you take out of it.
Well, you guys are coming off, to me, this tremendous album you've released, Invincible Shield, and I want to talk about it because I thought, like I said, the song's perfectly displaced in the set, and a song that I hadn't really, I'd kind of maybe passed over a few times, but when I heard it live, I had to go back and listen to the studio version of it, was Crown of Horns.
Mm.
That song has really risen to me as maybe one of my favorites on the album. And I just, before you coming on, reading some Amazon reviews that say things like, this is the best Priest album since Painkiller. That says a lot. You've been on a few releases now. And that song in particular, I think really stands out. And just this album, the reception has been tremendous. That just has to be extra special for you as you're kind of cementing your legacy as part of this legendary band.
Yeah, I think that the album is pretty diverse. You know, it has songs like, as you know, Panic Attack and Invincible Shield, As God Is My Witness. And then you have songs like Crown of Horns, Devil in Disguise, Escape from Reality. You know, there's some diversity there, which Priest have always had. They've never been a one-trick pony. There's always been diversity in, you know, in the songs, melody. And those sort of dynamics that come with a Priest record. So the great thing is when you're coming up with those songs is that there's nothing that's off the table. Every idea we put on the table, whether it's a fast song or a mid-pace song, whether it's a what do you call it, like an anthemic song, or whether it's a thrashy song, it all goes on the table. They wrote the rule book on what you can do for heavy metal, and the melody, if it's melodic, put it on the table. We put everything on the table. There's nothing that's not allowed, you know, because of Priest's history of dynamic, well-crafted heavy metal. So if it's a song like Crown of Horns, it's more melodic, it's mid-paced. Let's go with it and see what it turns out like. And it turned out to be a really strong song. So um, we're happy to play it live, and we get a different response live. And that's what it's about. It's not a one-trick pony. It's not one dynamic on the stage set. It's there's ups and downs and twists and turns, and that's one of them. So I'm really happy that you picked that out.
I hope everybody goes and gets the album. You can go to judaspriest.com right now and get it. It's out. It's tremendous. I love it. I mean, this is like, again, you talk about taking these moments and like a new Priest album that's going to be meaningful to me. That's going to be meaningful to the fans, and it absolutely lives up to it. And it's, you know, you think you see just the title, Invincible Shield. I can't say it without saying it in the Rob Halford voice. Invincible Shield. Like
Yes,
that's, you have to say it like that, right? I can't, you know, that just
of
makes
course.
sense.
It's like when you read a statement by Morgan Freeman, you read it like Morgan Freeman. Rob's the
That's so
same,
true.
you know. But it was something. Invincible Shield was something that came up early in the process, and Rob had a, a phrasing like he was scatting some lyrics, and not even lyrics, but just an idea of some words. And we put it to music. And the Invincible Shield was this invincible type of banner that we all stand behind. It's our music. We defend it. It defends us. We're proud of it. We hold it high. And it will never die. So that's the Invincible Shield. And we're all part of that invincible community that is the heavy metal community. So how can you not use that? That's what it is. That's the community that we all stand behind.
And when you say that, it makes me realize how Priest has done that and delivered that for since its inception. You think about just the phrasing, the words, defenders of the faith,
Yeah.
how impactful that is and how much that does unify. And that is ultimate. That goes way beyond music or genre. That is powerful. And this album definitely
Well,
lives up
you're
to it.
absolutely right. It could be your sports team, it can be your family, it can be your office, you know, your team, your community of people. That's your invincible shield. That's who you get behind and raise high and move forward. And that's what it's about, man.
I want to make sure we touch on, because when we had you on last, it's crazy to think it's been that long that you were just getting ready to release your album, you know, Horns for Halo.
Ah, yes.
From Elegant Weapons, which was awesome. And I think you guys are done some dates. Like, just catch us up on what's going on with Elegant Weapons. And we had Ronnie Romero on not long ago, one of my favorite singers right now in rock. Just catch us up on Elegant.
Well, yeah, Ronnie's fantastic, by the way. You know, again, he's one of those guys. He's not only a singer, he's a front man. He fronts the band. You know, there's a lot of people I know, they've got great voices, uh, but it takes a front man or front woman, front person to do that job. So Ronnie's definitely got that. We did some dates last year in Europe, which was fantastic. We did some dates with Pantera, which was nuts. You know, you can imagine opening up for them. We've got a second record which is halfway done. Bass, guitars, and drums are done. We've got to, when we get some downtime from the Priest tour, we're gonna get Ronnie and see if we can put him down on the songs. And then really, it's waiting for the Priest cycle to finish up. Really, wherever this tour takes us, when that winds down and we find a window of opportunity to release the second record, we will. That's what it was about. Really, it wasn't about the one record recorded during COVID. It was about a band that goes on, you know. So we've all got our different things, obviously. Priest, except Ronnie's got his stuff. But we wanted it to be a proper band with multiple records, doing live dates, which we've done. But it's just obviously when Priest are out, Accept are out, Uriah Heep are out at the moment as well. When we find a window in between for that, then we'll look at releasing the second record. So that's an exciting thing to think about too.
I loved it. I really enjoyed that conversation we had talking about that. So excited for more to come. I do want to go back to kind of an early part of your career because you played with Lauren Harris. And Lauren, if I'm not mistaken, you guys opened for Maiden on that Somewhere Back in Time tour. You were in the band at that time, right?
Absolutely, yeah. That was when they had all
What?
the revisiting of the Egyptian the Power Slave record, and
Yeah.
that, you know, you can imagine how that was as a fan getting on that stage and seeing all the mummies and the, you know, Anubis and all that sort of stuff. That was a trip.
And I love Lauren. I got to be honest about a couple things. One is that I'm disappointed that she kind of took another route in life because I thought she was a tremendous front woman. I love that song, Your Turn,
Hmm.
by the way. I love that song. I thought it had great pop sensibilities, opening for
Absolutely.
Maiden. And then another thing that disappointed me, Richie, between you and me, she's recently, I think, got married, and that means my chance is blown. I had this whole plan. I was like, someday Steve Harris is going to become my father-in-law, and it didn't work out for me, like it did for you, as George Lynch is your father-in-law. So we maybe we both had a plan. Mine didn't work though.
Well, I will say when I met Lauren in 2006, I think it was, she was with her future husband then.
Okay, well,
And he's a great guy. He's a proper man. He's like a man's man. So he's a tree
okay,
surgeon. I don't know what you call tree surgeons in the US, but he chops
like a
down trees and,
botanist.
like, yeah, kind of, but on a big scale. You know, he's a proper man. So he's a great guy, lovely guy, and they've been together for years. So all the best
Okay,
to them. But I feel your pain, man. I mean, my cousin loved Lauren. He still loves Lauren, and he always says to me still that his heart's broken that she's getting married. But she's fantastic. She's a great friend. They're a great couple, and yeah, you'd love her husband as well. He's a great guy.
okay, you talked me into it. I'm good with it now. You set the record straight. I think I can handle it and move on. She's great though. Like I love that. I love that. Like I saw that tour in San Antonio.
Mm,
And because there wasn't a lot of US dates, if I
mm.
remember right. And like I was so taken with just that. And I was really hoping, I know she does some stuff with like video production or acting or something to that end, I think. So
You're right. She went
she's
into
doing
acting.
okay.
Yeah, but she's one of those people that I was talking to you about. She's the sort of person that would just get. Obviously, she gets it from her dad. She gets out there and just gives it 1,000%, no matter if there's 100,000 people at the front in San Antonio. That's quite a daunting thing, especially at the time for all of us, really. But she got out there and she gave it her all. You know, you've got to commend people that do that. They don't let things get in their way. And I think obviously she gets it from her father. There was a couple of times when, you know, we made mistakes as the band and didn't know how to get out of it. But she'd get out of it. She'd stop it. She'd stop the show. You know, make a funny uh, moment about it. Everyone was on her side, and she'd carry on stuff that I wouldn't have even been able to do. So
Wow.
you've got to commend her for that kind of spirit. You know.
That's awesome. Well, I tell you, Richie, it's been so great catching up with you again. I know you guys have a show tonight, I think in Seattle, and you
Yes,
must
sir.
be in a hotel room because you've got like a stuffed animal dog or something behind you. I hope that
Yeah,
is
I've
that
got my family out in
I,
Seattle at the moment, and yeah, that's Nora, the
awesome.
Arctic fox. Yeah, yeah. So
What a
she's my.
great time. Well, before we cut you loose, I got to hit you with my final four drum roll, four quick ones. We'll have some fun with it. You give me what comes to mind.
Okay.
Okay, I know you're kind of a nostalgic guy like me. You like a lot of stuff like from the 80s. And so it is October, so Halloween's coming up. Give me your favorite horror movie of all time.
Is Alien technically a horror
Yes.
movie?
Oh, I'll take Alien. Yeah.
Okay, we'll go with Alien.
Alien. Amazing one. Number two, a song or songs that you have tried to get in the preset list since you've been in the band, but hasn't quite made it in yet.
Reckless from the Turbo record.
I'm up for that. Let's go.
We rehearsed it, I think, at the beginning of the 50th anniversary tour, and usually we rehearse too many songs. We have to cut them. We have
Right.
to cut down, and that was one that got the chop, unfortunately. But I'd still love to play that one live.
What is the first concert you ever attended?
Brian Adams at Wembley Arena in 1987.
I'm such a Brian Adams fan, you have no idea. Like
The best, the best, the best.
people don't
Songwriting.
realize.
I think they do. They just don't think about it. I mean, Brian Adams is always consistently, whatever decade it is, Brian Adams has always been there. And I think that kind of just shows his longevity, his songwriting, and his talent, really. He's fantastic.
Okay, last one. You can play a set as a guitarist for any band ever in history, living dead, anything. You can play one set with one band. Obviously, Priest is off the table since you've done that. Who's it going to be? There's
Alice Cooper.
Iron Maiden has room for a fourth if you want to jump into Maiden.
I'm obviously considered Maiden, but I'm going to say Alice Cooper.
Well, they got room for a fourth too.
That's true, but there's such a wealth of different tracks there, right from the beginning up to present day. So much great musicianship, great songs. I'd say Alice Cooper for sure.
You do great there. Nita gets Alice to drag out all the great 80s songs like Bed of Nails and stuff from
Yeah,
Constrictor. You see Constrictor behind me. I'm an 80s Alice guy all the way. So
right.
I'm up
I mean,
for it,
even the
Richie.
stuff prior to that, man, like Halo of Flyers and
Oh,
Ballad of Dwight Fry and Stephen and all that sort of stuff, man. It's just brilliant, brilliant stuff.
I just saw Alice like a few weeks before I saw you guys. So like I'm riding a high currently. So thank you, Richie. I know you guys have a show tonight. Have a great show. Have a great rest of the tour. And we will catch up hopefully around the time Elegant Weapons comes out with the new album. We'll make it happen, buddy.
Absolutely, man. Looking forward to talking to you then.
Always. Thanks a lot.
See you, mate. Bye bye.